Okay, so this is an update on the GE Merchant bot. This is like the improved version that I made a video on the other day. I did plan on making like an intermediate video between the previous one and this one, but I ended up just going to town on the code and basically I did it all in like one day. So I didn't get a chance to. But basically I'm just gonna like show you the bot running, which it's doing now in the background. You can see working on 4 windows. It's juggling them pretty nicely, like what items it can buy, which ones it can't. And then in a bit I'll go through the code, but I'm just going to explain basically what it's doing at the minute, and then we'll go see it in the code afterwards. So it's still got a couple of bugs. For example, you see the I, the newt in the bottom right corner. I manually moved that out the way because it was causing problems. It tried to buy an I of newt, but it couldn't read the price of it because the price is like 9 or 8, or I think like it bought for 9 and sold for 8 or something like that, and it couldn't read the 9 or the 8. I can't remember what the exact issue is. I think it's something to do with Tessa not being able to read like single digits unless you explicitly look for single digits. So yeah, I still need to fix that bug, but it's only minor in comparison to the rest of the stuff that I've fixed. So yeah, so what it's doing at the minute, it's running 4 monitors, 4 Runescape instances. It has objects for each of them. As you've seen in like the previous code, I think I've shown the objects that I'm using. So I'm using like objects for the window, I'm using an object for each of the GE slots, and I'm using an object for each of the possible items that can be merged. I keep individual item lists for each window of which items are available for it to merge. So like the item limits and stuff are all like unique to each window. Since like air runes, for example, they have a 25k limit, but it's per window, so this bot knows that it can buy 25k on one window, 25k on another, and 25k on the rest. It doesn't buy, so for example with air runes again, it doesn't buy 25k on one window at the same time it's buying 25k on another window. I made that rule in because I figured what's the point in having all the windows competing with each other. I'd rather have them all merging different items at the same time. There's a members check in it. I think I went through this in the previous video as well. I should have probably watched the video to find out what I did in the other one. But basically it checks whether or not the account's a member, and if it is a member then it has an item list that it can use for members, and if it's not a member then it has a free to play item list. So that's where it gets its items from. It has a save function, so you can't actually see the command line output because basically there wasn't enough room on this recording to put it in, as well as have the 4 different windows up. But in my output, it tells me like when it's just saved the state, and then when it has just saved, I'm safe to cancel the script, close down, like log out of RuneScape, whatever. Go play some other games, come back in half an hour, boot up all the RuneScape windows back in like the same positions as were, with the same accounts in the same orders and stuff. That's important, that needs to be done. But then I'm safe to rerun the script, and it'll look for a save file, it'll find the save file because it's created it, and it'll boot up back where it left off. So what I'll do is when I've shown the code, after the code we'll come back to RuneScape and I'll show you it like loading from save and what it does. It currently scores the items, so similar to how my old one did, the one that only ran on one window, the one that sort of set this whole thing off. Similar to how that one scored the items and then like searched for items based on their score. This one has started the scoring process. I haven't started the looking items up from scores yet because I've only just started this. I don't have enough items with scores yet for that to be effective, so at the minute it just picks randomly, picks a random item to merchant, but eventually obviously it will pick up from the score and hopefully it'll learn which items are good and which ones are bad. I have it set at the minute so that I can hard code in like a amount of money that each window will have, and that amount of money will be the same for every window. I don't see much issue with that. I don't see much reason to change it. The only thing I would like to change, I think, is I'd like to give the members screens a bit more money, which is really easy to do. I think I'm going to add that. That's probably going to be the next thing I add. So for example, my members screen probably needs like 3 times the money since it has like 3 times the slots nearly. So I'll probably set something like that up. As you can see, like the free-to-play screens, the one in the bottom left, for example, it's sat on 15 mil that it's not currently using, whereas the members screen, the bottom right, you can see there's a lot of items there that it's not actually buying the limit of. For example, the Radiant Energy, the Raw Rocktail, the Nature Rune, like all them different stuff. It's not actually buying the limit of them, so it would be nice to fix that. What else does it do? So the mouse moves realistically, or at least semi-realistically. Hopefully you've been watching that on the screen. It doesn't just teleport like the previous one, it does gradually move, kind of smooth, and a lot of stuff randomized in this. So, for example, it keeps track of the logout duration, so like the auto logout timer is like 5 minutes in Runescape. It keeps track of when the last time it performed an action on each screen, and if that time is like X amount of seconds away, which is like a random number between 150 and 250, so like 2.5 minutes and 4 minutes 10 seconds. So if it's somewhere in this range above this random number, so then it will do a random action. It can do one of two things. It can either examine the money pouch, or it can click on the sale history. It'll wait on the sale history for, again, a random amount of seconds, between something like 1 and 10 or something like that, I think it is. And it'll then come back to the Grand Exchange. So it's got like 2 logout prevention things. Everywhere it clicks, like whenever it tries to click on something, so for example the sale history button, it'll click on a random point within the sale history button. This point is random like every single time, so it's different every single call. The money pouch is like randomly clicks on that. Basically there's not a single click in this code that is completely hard coded. Like they all have some element of randomness to them. Every pause has a random element attached to it. Every duration of like the mouse movement has a random element attached to it. Basically I've tried to make the thing as random as possible while following the system. It currently keeps track of profit per window, and it keeps track of total profit, obviously by summing all them up. It also keeps track of the time that it's been running, and then from that can work out like things like profit per hour and stuff like that. The numbers are really low at the minute because obviously I've only just started running this. It's not optimized yet to know which items are good and bad. It's not working with as much money as it should be, so like the members screen, for example, is pretty much not making any money because you can see it's only buying like 168 Rocktail. You're not going to make much money buying 168 Rocktail. Definitely need some more money on that. But yeah, that's about it, I think. I can't think of much else to comment on this. So one other thing it does, the way it scores items is pretty much the same as how it did in the previous one. Go watch the previous videos on my other GE Mercher if you don't know what that is, but it basically just, it's a score that it's given based on the profit it made and the time it took to make the sale. Now, with the save feature added, I didn't want a situation where, for example, Law Rune's now in the top left. I didn't want a situation where I pause the script now, so I like close the script down, I go play some of the games for an hour, I come back, I run the script again, and then Law Runes have sold, and now it scores Law Runes based on like that extra hour that was taken out, because it does save like the amount of time it's been running, all that stuff is saved. So I didn't want Law Runes getting like a artificially low score because of the fact that I had the script paused that whole time. So what I've done is I've implemented some way, and I still have to check that this works, but I'm pretty sure it does. I've implemented a way where after a load, it won't actually score items. If an item has been bought during downtime, or if it's been sold during downtime, it'll be marked with like the score is not valid, like attribute to the item. And then this attribute will be checked like when it comes to scoring, and if it has this certain attribute, basically the score won't be recorded. So that really helps with getting like false low scores. Instead, it's just like the item doesn't receive a score. It doesn't, like the score will just be the same as what it previously was to the sale. So yeah, that's enough of me talking. I'm gonna pause the script now, so just cancel it, and we'll come back to it once I'm done showing you the code. So let's try to figure this out. And what's this doing? There we go. So this is huge, bear with me. I'm not going to go through it all, I'm just going to go through like key. Basically I'm just going to go through this main loop, a couple, like maybe 100 lines long, maybe 200, yeah, something like that. The rest of the stuff, I might go through it in another video if someone's interested, but basically what I'm going to do is each time one of these functions are called in main, I'm just going to tell you what the function returns. If I went through the whole thing in detail, it's 700 lines long, plus I've got other modules like that this calls from, so yeah, not doing that in this video, unfortunately. Let me know in the comments below if you do want to see the rest of the code. I'm happy to go through it, I just don't want to be doing it all in one video. So first of all, what this does, defines a global client version. Now this client version's because of the fact that basically this is to try and get it get the script compatible with like the legacy client and the NXT client. For some reason, I didn't know this, but for some reason in RuneScape, the item images are slightly different on NXT and legacy, like the legacy client, because I tried running it on my laptop and it couldn't find the items properly. So yeah, basically this is just to store which client you're on. So then we try loading. So we try loading from file. Now if this file exists, and this file exists, and this file exists, and this file exists, then it tells us that we've found previous saved data, so we're going to pick up where we left off previously. And it tells you how to stop this, so that this should actually be a 4 now since I'm saving 4 things. Now score items is set to false. This is the variable I was on about where it doesn't score items if you've loaded. So we'll get to that later, but basically score items false now. All these different variables have obviously just been pulled from our save file. So we've got list of Runescape windows, which I've been through in the previous video. This is basically the bulk of the stuff. So this Runescape window is an object. So we've got a list of objects here, and Runescape windows, that object contains the GE slot objects, and then the GE slot objects contain the item objects. So everything, like all the data for basically the interface is inside this list. Now, list of items in use, I'll get to what this is in a bit, but it's basically just a way of not be buying air runes on like all 4 at the same time. It makes sure that we're only buying it on one screen at a time. Client version, just been through what this is. Start time, this is literally just the time that the script was started. So if we're loading from a save, I want the start time of the previous, like the original version to be started, if that makes sense. I don't want to be like getting a new start time every time, because that's going to mess with like profit per hour and stuff like that. So if any of these fail, if none of these, if like some of these files don't exist or whatever, so if we fail to load some of these, then we're going to start up as if it's a new run. So score items is true, we can start score items because this is a completely fresh run. We're not like picking up where we left off previously. Client version is an input, so we type into the console which version of the client we're using. It then checks that you've entered a valid client version and keeps prompting you until you do. Client version gets adapted slightly just to make up like a correct file path, because it gets used later on like as part of a file path to locate the item images. I'm not going to go too in depth on that. Just basically I've got 2 sets of images, and one of them corresponds to one client version, one corresponds to the other, so this is a way of locating that. We dump the client version, So we create this file up here. So if this was the file that we couldn't load, we now can load it on our next run. Start time. So this is called. This again gets dumped. This is now this file up here. Now we initialize the list of Runescape windows. So this thing here, it detects how many windows we've got, detects how many GE slots are on each window. It basically initializes the entire thing. It sets up all these classes. So this is the Runescape instance. This is the thing that it sets up. Each of these calls for like certain instances, like to do their stuff. So this assigns like the images to the items. And if you want to know more about this, I think I went through it more in the previous video. Again, you can ask in the comments if you want, and I'll do a specific video on this, because this will take a while and it's all to go through all the classes and what they do. So once we've detected the windows, it prints out how many windows we've detected. This is just to let the user know if any of the windows weren't detected. Then it'll tell you straight away, so you know you need to cancel the script and sort your stuff out, rerun it, so you get all the windows detected. Now, list of items in use, this gets initialized. It's got no items in use at the minute because we just started the script. Now we're going to try loading the list of items names with scores. What this is it's basically the same thing as I had in my original GE Mercher, which is like the dictionary that kept the item names and the scores in. This time we're using a list. I'm not certain whether I'm going to keep it as a list, but I figured I'd try something different because I had some ideas I wanted to do with it. So for now, it's a list. It keeps track of the item name and the score associated with it. So we're going to try loading that. If we can't load it, then we initialize an empty one since we haven't already got one. But this file here should never be deleted because the idea is that you're going to get gradually better and better scores. So hopefully every single time you run this, you are going to load a previous list of items with scores. Now, logout prevention random number, this is the thing I was on about where like randomly it'll pick a time to stop you automatically logging out. This is just a random number between 150 and 250. Previous total profit is none. This is important just so that whenever we get an update to the total profit, we can print out the new total profit. It's not that important, but it's just nice for user output. Time of last save, this is just so that if we haven't made a save in a while, it'll know and it'll start saving. So basically every single minute, I've got it set up at the minute, every minute it'll save, so that's pretty nice. Last saved list of Runescape windows, this is so that if we get an update to this list, then we also save, and if we get an update to this list, then we save. So there's 3 conditions for saving. One is it's been 60 seconds since we last saved, in which case it's going to save. One is the list of Runescape windows has been updated, in which case we're going to save. And the other is the list of items in use has been updated, therefore we're going to save. So these all fall under this block of code right here. So you can see times at time minus time of last save, or this. Now they obviously all trigger this loop, and then we save the different variables we need to. We update time of last save because we've just saved, so it's now the current time. We print out some stuff that lets you know it's saved, so it lets you know that it's safe to close the script if you're quick about it. We print out the current scored item list. This is purely just for me debugging at the minute. This will be removed eventually, but for now I want to be seeing this quite often. So yeah, that's what Update does. Now, the bulk of the code is inside this while loop because obviously we want to be looping over the thing over and over again. So we have a time.sleep 3 seconds. This is just to stop the code. Like if it is just waiting for stuff, it's just to stop it spamming through and like constantly searching all this stuff. It's wasted processing time, and it can cause bugs if like things lag a little bit. Then it potentially can skip certain stuff it shouldn't. This is just to make sure it all runs smooth, basically. So total profit is equal to 0. We reset this every time because the total profit is worked out at the end by summing over all the windows profit. So right here, total profit plus equals RuneScape window.profit for RuneScape window and list of RuneScape windows. So for every window, it sees what the profit of that window is and adds it to the total profit. This total profit then obviously has to be reset to 0, otherwise this is just going to grow and grow and grow. So yeah, that's what that's for. Now, next up, we check if the RuneScape window and list of RuneScape windows. So there's going to be a lot of this. There's going to be a lot of looping over all the windows. If time.time, so if the current time minus the time of the last action is bigger than the logout prevention number. So this is if we're close to logging out. If we need to stop the auto logout, then we need to update the logout prevention random number because we want to get a new one now. We don't want to be using the same one every time. RuneScape window.set time of last action. So we're about to take an action, so we want to update this time of last action, and we want to prevent logout. And then to prevent logout, we pass in the coordinates of the top left and the bottom right of the window. I'm not sure why I didn't just pass in the RuneScape window in this and I'll pull them later, but yeah, this recorded quite a long time ago, so maybe I wasn't thinking about that. Basically what that does, actually I'm not going to go through all this. This video is going to be long as if I go into all these functions. All this does basically either clicks sale history or it examines the money with a 50-50 chance. Now, completed offer check is false. This is a default for this. And then for RuneScape window and list of RuneScape windows, we check if there is a completed offer by trying to locate the completed offer, like the green bar. And if we locate this green bar, then we know that we've found a completed offer. So if the coords of the completed offer equals none, so if it doesn't find any, then we continue at the next window and we check that one. Else, if we do find completed offers, then we set completed offer check equal to true. So we did find one, and we then handle the completed offer. So handling the completed offer all falls under this loop right here. So for the G slot in the RuneScape window, dot list of G slots. So for every G slot in that window, if the G slot coordinates basically encase the coordinates of the green bar, so this is basically trying to find which G slot is the green bar associated with. Once it finds it, it collects the items from the G slot, because no matter whether it was a buy or a sell, we need to collect the items. Now, if not score items, so I'm going to skip this little bit, but basically this is to stop false scores, like I was saying, like artificially low scores being created. This is to stop that. Actually, I won't skip this bit. So what it does is, if score items is true, then it's going to just skip this bit. There's no need to enter this. If score items is false, so we shouldn't be scoring items yet, if that's what it says, if it says that we shouldn't be scoring items yet, then we need to set that slot. The item that's in that slot, we need to set the score to invalid. So if the score is invalid, like I mentioned, it's not going to score it. So that's what this does. Now, where do I pull this from? Okay, so this must be set later on somewhere, but basically each G slot has a variable called buy or sell to tell you whether or not it was buying or selling something. So if it was a buy that finished, then we need to start selling the items. So what it does is it adds the items to on cooldown. The items it's just bought. So say it bought 25k air runes, it now knows that 25k air runes can't be bought for another 4 hours. Now, the number of items available to buy, so if it buys 25k air runes, for example, it now takes 25k off from the number available to buy, since we just bought that number. So it keeps that number up to date constantly. And if the time that it if the time it placed the buy order at was longer than 30 minutes ago, then it rechecks for the price that it should be selling at, basically, to keep the prices up to date. If it was a sell, then it handles that accordingly. This is basically where the scoring comes in. So this block of code right here is to do the scoring. These two here just update the money and the profit. These are quite simple. Not going to go through everything, but this just updates the money. This updates the profit based on, because it was a sell. We know we just made some profit. It now prints the total profit made from this window. If gslot.item.score is valid, so this is again part of this thing up here. So if the score was invalid, it's not going to hit this loop, which means that the item's not going to be scored. So this is how we prevent it. If the score is valid though, which it defaults to, then we want to score the item. So this is how it's scored. I'm not going to go through this code. This is just really long, but it basically just, based on the time, based on the profit, gives it a score and appends it to the list that I talked about. Now we dump that list, so we want to save that list to file in case we decide to close out the script. Now gslot.update buy or sell state, so we've just got rid of a finished sell offer, so now there's nothing in that slot. So we update the state to none because it's not buying, it's not selling. So it's important that the program knows that that slot's now available to be used. Now, list of items in use .remove. So this removes the list of this removes the item that we've just bought, or that has just finished selling. Sorry, this removes the item that's just finished selling from the list of items in use, just so that it knows that it can now start using it again, like in other windows and stuff. This resets some of the variables of the item, so the price it was instantly bought at, the price it was instantly sold at, both get reset to none because we now don't have information anymore on these. These don't really need to be reset. I just did this because I thought it'd be nice in case we ever like try to use an old price. It's going to know now because none can't be used as a price. gslot.set item in gslot, so that's going to be none because there's now no items in that gslot. So that's basically just cleaning up like the variables in the different gslot properties, like gslot objects. If not score items, then we want to load from save. Yeah, so this is just printing out basically like an output to say why it's not starting to record scores, and telling you that it's currently not recording scores. If not completed offer check, so if we didn't find a completed offer, so that's what this variable appears for, completed offer check. So if we didn't find a completed offer, then what we can do is we can start filling in an offer. So the reason it does this is because I want completed offers to always get priority over like filing new offers. So I never want the situation where I have a completed offer and it's just sat there waiting for all the other slots to be filled or whatever. So this just ensures that completed offers get 100% priority. Now, if not completed offer check, if not score items. Okay, so what this does is, if we've not found a completed offer, then we can now start scoring items again, or we can now start setting like items as valid to be scored, sort of thing. So in that case, we want to jump back inside this loop. If score items is now if it's false, then we want to actually set it to true, since we've now entered this loop. It's complicated, this bit, or at least I thought it was complicated when I was coding it, so I'm not going to explain it very well, and I'm going to stop trying to explain it now, but just, if you don't understand it, let me know in the comments below. I'll try and do a better job. Now, empty slot check is equal to false, so this is just checking if there's an empty slot, so if we can actually place an order. And this thing right here, actually I'll go through this line by line, I think. It's been a long video, but if you're here already, I'm guessing, like if you're here still, I'm guessing that you still want to see the rest of it, so why not, eh? Okay, so for Runescape window, in list of Runescape windows, so we're looping over all the Runescape windows. If the Runescape window's number of empty G slots is greater than 0, so if it has an empty G slot, then we want to loop over the G slots. We want to see which ones are empty, and we want to say if we found an empty one, then the list of items available is empty currently. For item in the items to merge of that window. So this is really complicated to people who haven't actually seen the rest of the code, but basically each window has its own list of items to merge. Now it's going to loop over all these, and if the item name is not in the list of items in use, then we know it's an available item that we could potentially start merging. So if that item, if the number available of that item are above 0.2 times its limit, so if I can buy more than 20% of the maximum limit, this number is pretty arbitrary, but I figured 20% was quite a decent number since I generally want to be buying more than 20% of something at a time. So if there's more than 20% available, then the list of items available dot append item. So this list is going to start getting populated. Now this list is going to get filled with every available item that that slot could potentially buy. If that list has something in, so if there's at least one element in there, because remember, like, it could be the case that all items are now on cooldown, so none of them have over 20% available to buy. So if there's at least one in that list, then gslot.setItem in gslot random.choice list of items available. This basically picks a random item from this list and sets it as the item in the G slot, so we're going to start buying that item for that slot. List of items in use .append, so we now set that item as being in use in the global list of items in use, the thing that keeps track like between windows of which ones are in use. Now we find an up-to-date sell price, so this function is pretty long, it's further down below, but basically what this does is it clicks, like, it runs through like a short algorithm that will find the up-to-date sell price by buying one of the item at a huge, like a really high price. It'll then use PyTesseract to read in the price of the item that it was bought at, and it'll save that. Then it does the exact same thing, but the opposite. So it'll sell the item for really low, and it'll go and read that price, and then we update the prices that it instantly bought and sold at based on whether or not there was like a margin of 5. So this is basically an undercut and overcut thing. You don't need to worry about this. This isn't actually vital. It's just to help improve performance. Now we set the score to valid because we've jumped inside this, we know that we can start scoring items. Therefore, if we're going to be buying an item, we know that that thing hasn't been falsely affected by like loading a save or whatever. So this particular score can be set to valid for definite. Again, it's difficult to explain this bit, but hopefully that makes sense. Now we run this function buy item. So what this does is basically it's the same as these ones, but instead of buying for like max price or whatever, it buys for the price that it should be buying at, which is the lower price that it just found. And it buys like the right amount of them. So I'll go into these other functions in another video if someone would like that. Comment below if you would like that, because I'm happy to do it, but like I said, I don't want to be doing this video. It's going to be extremely long if I do that. But yeah, this just fills the order for the item. Files the order for the item, sorry. Now, empty slot check is true because we did find an empty slot, and then what we do is if we found an empty slot, we break. This is so that we break out of the loop. So basically, it'll file one order, then break, then run through the whole code again, and then it'll file another order and then break. This is so that it'll file one, break, and then check again for completed offers. So again, this is all just to make sure that completed offers get 100% priority. Now, this is repeated on this line because I have 2 for loops here, so I want to break out both. Now, almost done, just got this bit. So, loop over the Runescape windows again. We check for empty G slots. So what this does is just updates the number of empty G slots that are in that window for use in this bit of code up here, higher up. Now, if the length of so what this does is check if there's a item in the list of items on cooldown. If there is, then it checks has it been on cooldown for 4 hours, and if it has, then it removes it from cooldown. You can read through that to see exactly how it does it, but that's basically what it does. Now, total profit plus equals, so I've been through that, that's just tracking the total profit by summing up all the profits of the individual windows. Been through this is just a method of saving, and this is just a method of printing out the total profit. So like I said earlier, if the total profit is not equal to the previous total profit, so if we've had an update to the total profit, then we print it out basically, and we set the previous total profit now equal to this, so that we can then wait and look for another change. So hopefully that makes sense. That's going to be as far as I go with code. Now I'm going to go back on Runescape and attempt to load from save, and you can see what it does. So hopefully some items actually bought and sold in this time, so that something interesting to see. Also, I'm aware that you can't see anything yet. I will be changing that in a sec, just hold on. Okay, so it looks like 3 items have finished buying or selling, so we are going to have stuff to see. So, if I click this back on, so I haven't actually messed with this. Hopefully you can compare this screen and the previous ones. So what I'm going to do is, again, I can't show you the command output at the same time, which is quite annoying, but you're just going to have to trust me that it's outputting what I tell you it is. So I'll start the script now, and you'll see it figure out what it's doing. So it's just told me that it's found previous save data, so it's going to pick up where it left off. Now what it does first is it prevents all the windows logging out. Basically, because the previous times are all saved, it thinks it's been like ages since it last logged out, and it thinks it should have already logged out, but this is just it preventing it. Once it's prevented it from logging out, it handles the items that have bought or sold. So started placed the order for the fire runes to be sold. Now nature runes must have been over 30 minutes ago that it placed the buy order, so it's checking the price, it's checking for an up-to-date price. So it's going to read in that 412 now. It outputs that to console, so I can see actually like what's been going on. Say if I like haven't been watching this and I come back and I want to sell my items for the right price, I want to like close the script for the night. All the like item prices are in the console, so you can go find them in there. So collected the fire runes. Now it's actually not recorded the score for fire runes. Was it fire runes? Actually, I don't know what it was. I think it was some sort of herb, I can't remember. Basically it collected whatever herb it was and it didn't score it. Because of the fact that it had just loaded from save, it was aware of that, so it does seem like that's working. As I mentioned earlier, I haven't tested that yet, but it does seem like it's working. And yeah, now you can see it's picked a new item, so it's doing snape grass now, finding the prices for it. So U-logs are just bought, you see that up the top, so hopefully with U-logs now, because they bought while it was like working, while the script was working, U-logs should still be able to receive a score. Obviously they're not going to receive that score yet because they're the one you just bought. But hopefully it doesn't set their score to invalid. It doesn't seem like it set it to invalid. I'm pretty sure it's going to be scoring this when it sells, assuming that I keep the script running the whole time. So fire runes there, they weren't actually scored because of the fact that they were completed like while, so like the buy part of that offer was completed while the script was closed. So it appears both halves of this scoring thing are working. U-logs have actually just instantly sold pretty much for that price, so I guess we'll see now whether they're going to be scored. The rest of this video, by the way, is probably just going to be me talking over this bot running, so if you're not interested in that, then feel free to close now. Thanks for watching, but yeah, that's what the rest of this is going to be. If you've watched 40 minutes of this video, I'm damn impressed. So you see there, it's stopping this window from logging out because it thinks now that it needs to, because obviously it hasn't been doing anything on that window for a while, so it's stopping that from logging out. Now collecting the U-logs. The U-log score was updated. I've got that printed out to console, so it definitely does track that right. So I'm impressed with that. So things to add to this, I need to get it implementing like the scores. I need it to start picking items based on how good the scores are. But basically what I want to do originally is get it to pick items that don't have a score, so every item gets a score, and then I want to pick it. Basically, I think the way I want to do it is normalize all the scores and then pick like a probability based version. So the item with the highest score has the most likelihood of being picked, but isn't always picked. This will mean that the items with the lowest scores can occasionally be picked, just to sort of test the water and see if they can perform better than maybe they initially did. So maybe there's like a real freak outlier where something gets a score of like 3, but really it's a really good item. It just had like one bad trade. Another thing I'd like to add, I'm not sure how easy this is going to be to do. I don't have any ideas on how I could do this, but basically when a slot gets filled for a really long time and doesn't buy or sell the item, so for example green dragon leather, that's been there for a long time now. Like if it was me trading by hand, I would probably be cancelling that order and like doing it again, like rechecking the price and putting it in again. I'm not sure how to code that in though, because if I cancel the green dragon leather order and then collect my items, there could be a green dragon leather in that collection box, so it could have bought like half the thing, in which case I'd want to be selling it for like a reasonable price. It could have bought none, in which case I'd need to handle that, or it could have bought like just a couple, in which case I'm quite happy to just dump them. So I'm not too sure how I'm going to do that. I do have a couple of ideas, but they're not going to be as elegant as I'd like. But I definitely have a few ideas, so I might start working on something to do with that, because I feel like this could be really efficient if I code in something where it manages to detect like slots that have been filled for too long, and if it manages to score items and then like pick items based on their score. Because my plan is, when I get this running properly, so it's almost at its like final form, if you like, now. My plan is to get all 4 of these accounts that it's using, get them all to buy bond, put members on them all, and have like 32 items, like 32 slots on the go constantly. So I should be able to pump out a lot of like items, buying and selling, get like a lot of score data. So the score should be pretty accurate. But yeah, I just need to fix this if like slots are taking for too long problem. Not many of the problems in this. The other one I had with the eye of the newt thing earlier, I can fix that just simply by removing eye of newt, because I think it's only a problem with like single digit prices, and I don't really want to be merching anything that cheap anyway, because you're only ever going to get one. You're only ever going to get like 1 GP margins, which is never going to make bank, and it's really not worth it, because at that lower price, like quite often things have just a single GP value. So Newt, for example, might be traded at like 8 GP. You might buy it and sell it at 8 GP. Like even though the insta buy would be 9 and the insta sell would be 8, you'd probably never be able to sell at 9. You'd only be able to sell at 8 and buy at 8, sort of thing. It would take like way too long to sell at 9. I don't know if I'm explaining that very well, but like basically at them low GP values, they're just not worth doing. So what I might do is just remove Newt from my list of items to merch, and that would fix that problem. So yeah, there's not too much else to add to it. Just a few improvements I'd like to make, and then the guy I was working with, meant to be doing this with, I think he's going to work on like doing an improved mouse thing, because like basically all the code I've just shown you, and like any code that is to do with this project, I've done it all. I think the guy's been busy like with family stuff the last couple of days, and obviously I just cracked on, got it all done. So I think I can't really bother doing the mouse movements that we were originally planning on doing. I'm kind of not feeling that, I'll be honest. I can't be bothered to code like mouse moving algorithms, but by the sounds of it, he quite likes it. He quite wants to, so I'm gonna let him crack on with that, and I'll definitely post some video updates if he manages to get done. I also would quite like to like package this up as like an exe of some sort and be able to run it without having to run Python, but I'm not sure how doable that would be with the fact that it relies on Tesseract. Well, it relies on Tessa and then the PyTesseract that like loops into it. Anyway, so this is probably going to be the end of the video now. As you can see here on the bottom left, it's not detecting that items finished selling because of the fact the view offer things in the way. Now I could fix this. I could manually move the mouse over there, and it would get rid of that. But I was about to close the video, but I'm going to leave it running because I want you to see that this actually will fix that problem on its own. When it stops the window logging out, the mouse will go over that window, and therefore it will fix. It will mean that the score for Rune Arrow is slightly worse than it should be, but oh well. It's kind of like, I'm not sure why this happens, like why that view offer button comes up, because normally it only comes up, I think, if you like, I think it's if you hover the box for too long. Have a look. Nope. Not a right click. I was meant to examine that, but I messed it up. I'm not sure why that comes up then. Interesting, but it will fix it on its own, like I say. When it stops that window logging out, it'll fix its own problem. And as soon as it's done that, I'm gonna stop the video. Come on, don't take too long. I'd like as well with this to try and get my second monitor working. Like I don't think PyAutoGUI works with 2 monitors. I don't think I can control my second monitor with PyAutoGUI, so I maybe can't get that working. But I'd love to have like 8 accounts up. I'd love to have my other monitor with 4 and this monitor with 4, and then have 8 running at the same time. But I'm not sure how reasonable that is. I also want to leave these running for a while and just see if, like, see how the ban goes. Because I did get a ban on the old one. I got like a 1-day ban, but so far so good on this one. The other one obviously was a lot easier to detect. It constantly clicked like the same pixels over and over, and like, teleported there and clicked rather than doing like the nice mouse movements that this one does. So I have faith in this one. I don't actually see it getting banned as long as I'm not using it like 24/7 sort of thing. Obviously though, they could detect I was using like 4 accounts to merge on the G. I'm not sure how legal that is. By legal I mean like RuneScape legal, not like real life legal. But yeah, I'm not sure how okay with the rules that is, because I know they never used to like having multi accounts and doing stuff, but I think they're slackened up on it ever since like people started like AFK and certain stuff and like bossing another account or whatever. And I know people play old school and like RS3 at the same time on different accounts and that, but not sure. Maybe someone knows, maybe someone can let me know in the comments below. Come on, how has it not stopped the auto logout yet? Been like 4 minutes? 3 minutes? Oh, there we go. So it's stopping each window logging out. Now I'm going to detect the rune arrows are finished. Going to grab those. Stop this one logging out. Stop this one logging out. So they must have all needed stopping at the same time. And yeah, buy a new item. So I'll let it finish buying this item so I don't mess it up. Then stop the script, stop the video, and that'll be it for this one. So there will be another video on this. I'll post an update with the stuff in where I'm saying like how the slots are sometimes filled for too long with like items that aren't buying or selling, and just sort of blocking the slot that could be used for more productive means. I will be posting an update on that when I get done. I'm not sure when that'll be though. But as for this video, that's going to be it. So thanks for watching. Leave a like if you liked it. This video definitely took a long time to make. It took me about 3 days to code this. And by 3 days I mean like 3 days of like 10-hour sessions coding it each day. I'm not the best coder by any means, but it was a lot of effort for me. So yeah, would appreciate a like. Subscribe if you want to see more of this stuff. I plan on doing like other RuneScape bots and stuff like that. It was quite interesting doing this one. Not too sure how much more I could do, because detecting like moving stuff is difficult. Pi auto. I have a few ideas for other stuff. Like the guy I'm working with has a few ideas for detecting moving items, but we'll see. So yeah, subscribe if you want to see more. Like the video if you liked it. Leave a comment down below if you want to see like the other parts of the code that I mentioned, or if you've got any requests or suggestions, anything like that. Leave a comment below. Let me know. And that'll be it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.